Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go.
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and our third part to the Andor Aftershow. I'm your host, Josh, and we have our friends Kirk, Matt, Blake, and Darian joining us this week for the penultimate week of Andor Season 2, which is already almost done, which is crazy. So we are breaking down this week episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Andor Season 2. We've got notes. We've got many things. We've got overlap of Rebels. We've got Marvel one-shots to talk about. We got so much stuff. So stay tuned. We're about to get busy.
Another happy landing.
All right, welcome back, Blake.
Hello, hello. I'm very excited for this episode where we're going to talk about the Tales of the Underworld that just recently came out.
Well, that is definitely something we need to do in the coming weeks. But
I was not tracking the release date, so I wanted to watch the latest Andor episodes.
Yeah.
And it was just there, like in front. I could even click on Andor. I'm like, it's out.
it's already released.
And I gotta watch like 3 more episodes of Andor and then watch this. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have, but I also don't have that much time right now.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, we will get to that. We've got, I guess, this week, next week for Andor, we got a book called Reign of the Empire the week after that. So that's in 2 weeks time, and then, or 3 weeks time, something like that. And then after that, then we will get to the Tales of the Underworld stuff.
Oh
so
man, it's a ways out yet.
it's yeah, we got about maybe a month to go.
Because they released it all at once?
They did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So the last 2 times that we did Tales of, we just did it by arc. So we did 1 week, we did an after show for like the Ahsoka story, and then another week for like the Dooku story, and
It was Jedi and Sith, right?
and then for Tales of the Empire we did the same thing with Barriss and Morgan Elsbeth. So yeah, this one should be interesting to talk about, when we get around to it. But yeah, welcome back to the show, Kirk. Hello there.
Hello there. It's good to be back, and I didn't even realize that Tales was already out.
Snuck up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I thought you were joking, but I just looked and it is out.
No, it's out, like legit.
I've been so caught up with Andor.
Oh
Yeah, I'm the same way.
dude, yeah. And as a side note to Tales, recently Kirk and I had a small chat when we were going to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And before we went, I said I was taking Robin through all of the, the 2 prequels that predecess episode 3, right? We finished up Phantom Menace, and I was like, hey, do you have time for a 20-minute animated short? And she was like, reluctantly, she's like, because she doesn't really do the anime stuff. And I was like, and I squeezed it out of her. And I was like, yes. So I put on the 1 episode of the Dooku arc, which really bridges the gap nicely, between episode 1 and 2. It brings up the whole Cypher Diaz thing, the erase of the Camino archives, Yaddle's disappearance, Qui-Gon's funeral, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's super, super awesome to watch as like an epilogue to the Phantom Menace. And so I advise anyone out there, whoever's, if you're taking a friend through Star Wars in chronological order for the first time, maybe just throw that in, because it's so short and just explains so much. And I just recommend it. So I think she appreciated watching it in the end, hopefully. Anyway, welcome back to the show, Matt. Hello, sir.
Hey. Let's tear the poodoo out of this place.
Ripping a new poodoo. And we also got Darian. Welcome back, sir.
Hello?
Well, I think the feed has gone dead, but we have Darian with us. So maybe
This is the May.
Oh, there he is.
There he
is.
exists. We lost you into the ether there.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just decided it didn't want to transmit.
Yeah, that happens.
That's what happens when you're out on the outer rim joining in.
Right. Exactly. Love those sound effects coming in. All right, so this week we got Andor episodes 7, 8, 9 of season 2. We're almost done. These episodes were directed by Janice Metz and written by Dan Gilroy. These episodes all came out May 6th, 2025. And we are in the year 2 BBY, which is 2 years before the Battle of Yavin, also known as Star Wars Rebels Season 3 time period. And the first episode is called Messenger. So as usual, I will go through a bit of the plot line here, and we can just kind of go through the bullet point notes and so on and so forth. So after a year, the Rebel Alliance has established a coordinated military presence on Yavin 4, now home to Cassian and Bix. Willman informs them of Dedra's presence on Ghorman, where Rebel activities have been officially characterized as terrorism incited by external agents. Willman proposes assassinating Dedra, and despite initial reservations regarding Luthen's involvement, Cassian agrees and accompanies Willman to Ghorman. Bix is informed by a Force healer that Cassian will play a pivotal role in the rebellion. On Ghorman, Dedra's authority is temporarily superseded by Captain Kaido, dispatched by Partigaz to manage the planet's subjugation, while Cyril questions Dedra's narrative of outside agitators due to his interactions with the rebels. Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, so how did you guys like this episode? Maybe Darren, we can start with you. What was your impressions of this one?
This one was okay. I found the whole Force healer bit interesting because it shows the rebellion more in line with the Jedi further back in its history.
Cool. Yep.
That's true.
Very true. Yeah. All right. Matt, like, what were your what's your 2 cents on this one?
First, I really liked seeing Yavin 4 like in more developed and looking more like, how we've seen it in Rogue One and The New Hope. So I was kind of excited about that. I love the Force healer moment. I thought that was pretty cool. And seeing Commander Draven, I think, from Rogue One, was cool. And just seeing things then being more organized, I thought that was super cool. And then him kind of coming in the line, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, Kirk, what about you?
Yeah, I really like this episode. I feel like it felt like a really big contrast to the last one. Seeing Yavin 4 was great. Even just like watching something small like Cyril's facial expressions in this episode, like he was enjoying his time in the last 2 arcs when he went to Ghorman. But on this arc, like you could really tell that like his character's been through a lot and he wasn't enjoying his time as much, or something was up. The Force healer as well too was a nice pleasant use of the. I remember I think Tony Gilroy said in an interview for season 1 like he didn't want to touch the Force or anything in this show, but it's good to see like it being done in a tasteful way.
Yeah. What about you, Blake? Anything that stuck out to you right away?
Just to follow what Kirk was saying there with the healer, I thought it was interesting that even she admitted that sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. So it's kind of like, it is kind of this weird, like, is it real? Is it not? Is it coincidence? Is it, sort of like woo-woo thing? Which I thought was a very tasteful way to go about it, especially at this point after the Jedi have been gone for so long.
Yeah, for sure.
And people never really understood how the Jedi really works anyway if they weren't in the Order.
Yeah. It's like it's taking that element of belief in what the Force can do, right? And so like that was an interesting
more spiritual,
way. Yeah. It was definitely more spiritually approached in this sort of social dynamic that was unraveling here,
which is also more fitting to the original trilogy, because I think at the time of the prequels, it's been a while, but I recall a lot of people being upset because the Jedi were, even though they were monks, they weren't really all that spiritual. They almost had brought a science to the Force, midichlorians and everything.
Yeah.
But in regards to the rest of the episode, it is so heavily overshadowed by the next two episodes that even though I watched this one twice and the other ones once, I still mostly remember the other two.
Yeah.
So, but in hindsight, as I come here and everyone else talk about it, I do feel like Cyril had the most character development in this one, which then leads into the third episode.
Yeah. I liked it for a lot of the same reasons.
Second episode, excuse me.
Yeah. I liked it a lot for a lot of the same reasons. The force healing scene was very interesting to see. Also, like what Matt was saying, the return of General Draven was super nice. A nice tie-in to Rogue One.
Though he's got some Benjamin Button issues going on, right?
Yeah, he looks a little older, but yeah,
his hair grows in a little in the next few years.
But it's funny when you look at Diego Luna. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. If you look at him in Rogue One, it's like 10 years ago, right? Like,
yeah, it's true. It's a long time.
Dude, Diego Luna is like taking whatever that Ant-Man actor, what's this guy's, Paul Rudd is taking. It looks the same. He doesn't age.
Yeah, I didn't even notice. He's aged very well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Didn't need any Anakin forehead smoothing here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I loved something that hasn't been noted yet was I love that the bellhop recognizes Andor. When he goes to the hotel and he books the room. I love how he kind of very subtly mentioned that he kind of knew. It's like, hey, you'll have to manage your own bags this time. Because he recalls who he is from like a year ago. Because
I think the bag hop is involved with the rebellion, the rebel cell here on this planet. I think we see him later.
I don't know. I don't know if he.
I swear I saw him in that room when they're all having that meeting.
Yeah, at the end.
Is he in the room?
I think so. So I think he knows that.
Oh, okay.
Cassian is a rebel agent.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
After he says you'll have to manage your own bags, he goes, "You know the way," and tilts his head down.
Right. Yeah. So that was cool. Also, I gotta say that sniper, that suitcase filled with that gun in there was so cool. When they talked about this show initially when it was coming out before it was out, they really took it from this marketing angle of this is a spy espionage genre kind of show, right? And it's moments like this where I'm like, yeah, this is definitely like a spy show, with the sniper that pulls out of a briefcase and he's clipping
Jason Bourne,
clipping bits all over him. Yeah, it's just that's straight out of Jason Bourne. Yeah, 100%.
Well, also the bellhop guy, he says the rebellions are built on hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does.
It's Leia's line.
Yeah, that was I think that was in the next one. And yeah, that was such a great little connective tissue there. But yeah, you're right. This episode really was sort of the wind up for the arc. And lots of character development for Cyril and some moments with Dedra in there as well. Did anyone have anything to bring up on this particular aspect of the episode?
One thing I thought was really interesting was in the previous set of episodes, the rebellion on Ghor was super well knit and everybody was on the same page for the most part. This time, right away, you see they're already all at odds.
Right.
Yeah.
Some thinking it's better to be more aggressive and others be more subtle.
Yeah. It's also it's also hard to, I guess it's easy to forget that this is now a year later as well, right? They always open up the first episode of the arc with the BBY marker, but
in this episode in particular, I thought that was kind of fun because we're on Yavin.
Yeah. It's like they flash forward over all of the things that I would like to know. It's like, whose idea was it to come back there?
Right. Also, that tower's massive and they're all living in huts in the trees.
Yeah. I thought that was actually kind of neat because in the movies, we only ever see the military
the temple,
bit, right? But there's actually a ton of people camping out in the woods and stuff, which makes total sense.
It's funny because the first time I saw that was in a Lego game. They didn't do that. Now they did.
You're saying they took some elements from the Lego game and
it's canon now.
That's amazing.
And little yurts.
I'm kind of wondering though, maybe at some point, I wonder if the lore was established that there were a lot of people camping in the woods in huts and things, maybe through things like some of the novels. honestly have not read a crazy amount of literature based around episode 4. I've read a few things, but not like, I know that there's like some X-Wing books and this and that. Like
maybe the first Star Wars comic run they put out.
Maybe
back around Force Awakens, because I think they're supposed to tie between like 4 and 5 and stuff, right?
Yeah, and I wonder as well, because I'm trying to remember, was there ever a video game in which we played on Yavin 4 that maybe there was people gave the idea that people were camping out in the woods like that? Like maybe one of the Battlefront games?
Jedi Academy on Yavin, but that's like a whole different thing.
Right, yeah. That's a long time later too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was cool though. It was cool to see. Anyone else got anything else for this episode? Willman's back. We had a mention of Dodonna in this episode. I think it was this episode. He was name dropped, General Dodonna, although we don't see him. It was cool. We got the U-Wing again. That was cool.
Yeah, I think what I liked about seeing Yavin was just like, maybe it was in the other episodes, but there's a lot of like extended shots of just people running around doing their thing on Yavin, and it made it feel like more like a big place and what life was kind of on there, which I enjoyed kind of just sitting through and watching.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I noticed.
Oh, go ahead, Darian.
Luthen is seen as a very outside force now, whereas before he was kind of the fabric between all of the different cells.
Yeah,
because they threatened to like boot him from the rebellion just for going to help Luthen.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy conversation, because it's almost like they're treating him a bit like how Saw is eventually treated like that too. Not to mention though, I guess Saw leaves on his own accord as well. There's sort of a mutual dislike there, but yeah, I thought it was interesting that Luthen, who seems to be one of the main people that we thought would have this pivotal role in bringing the rebellion together, is actually still kind of operating the way he's operating, which is this very spy networked kind of guy. And
do you think part of that's just he's not in A New Hope or any of the movies, so they have to
I still have
forced to do that?
I think he's actually I think in the final arc I think he's gonna meet his end. I think that's just my opinion, because this would play back to his role, his speech, his big long speech to Lonnie in season 1, right? I feel like that needs to kind of come full circle, just in my own opinion. So I think he's actually gonna die next week's episode arc. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But
the hard thing is that when you've got, like, we know Rogue One exists and we know what characters are kind of there, they either have to explain in this show why they don't show up, or tie off loose ends type of thing.
Yep.
Which is hard to do. Actually, there's a couple other things in this episode I remember that if we still got time, I might quickly mention.
Yeah, go for it.
So, like, I remember noticing, like, in the Ghorman Plaza, like, they have the old monument from the Grand Moff Tarkin massacre. Like, that's all shielded off, so you can kind of see them getting prepared for the future plans in the next couple episodes. Yeah. But what I think was, like, really two other things that were really interesting in this episode for me was, number one was I've already forgotten his name, but the general that is encouraging Andor not to go back to Ghorman because he needs to be a leader now, which then leads to Vel going up to Bix and telling Bix that Andor needs to switch from being a fighter to a leader. And I think that's, like, even more fermented, like, at that point there, which obviously encourages Bix to do what she does later.
Yeah.
And yeah, one more thing that I think was, like, really important again for the later episodes is that when that new squad of Imperial troopers arrive in the Ghorman Square, and we see that leader with the mustache and everything, that older gentleman, it's, like, established that this squad that comes in are very young, and they're very, because I think
green is the term.
What's her name? Deirdre goes and says that these are a bunch of
children.
These aren't professionals. Whatever she says, children. And then I think that's really important because that's the squad that ends up, going out and doing what they are ordered to do, which I think is a really good kind of setup and reasoning to why everything unfolds. But that was established in this episode that I thought was, it's just one of those things that when you're watching it, you think it's just going to be a passing moment, but then, like, it actually makes sense why they set that up later on. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that line specifically from Deidre where she's like, they look like children. It was like, that's a great moment of, this is what they're going to use propaganda to make the Ghorman rebels seem so evil, is look at these kids that they've killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It makes it so much worse, right? Like, it adds gravity to it. So yeah, that's a great thing to mention. It's also worth mentioning this episode has one of the shorter runtimes of the season at 36 minutes and 16 seconds. We're still over the 35 gold standard minimum, but it was only the second episode to actually be below that 40-minute mark. The other two episodes of this arc were way above. So the second episode hit exactly 40 minutes of true runtime, and the third episode was our fourth ever over 50-minute episode. So that brings Andor up into the 50-minute premium club with Ahsoka, Book of Boba, and The Mandalorian season 3. So there we go.
And does that make you happy? Because I know you really don't like a short episode.
It makes me very happy. Although it feels like they cheated a little bit with kind of dinging episode 7 by a couple minutes, but. But hey, I mean, like they did it, right? Like they made a 50-minute plus episode, which I feel like was also kind of the star of the arc here, being the final one of the three. But yeah, that was kind of exciting to see. So just thought I'd throw it out there. And if anyone does want to see the true runtimes of these episodes, because Disney's Plus skews all these runtimes with 10-minute credits and all this and that, you can go to our podcast archives link and look for the tab called Runtime Tracker, I think it's called. And you can find all this information there. So let's move on to this.
One last thing that
go
I thought
for it.
was worth talking about. So, there's I don't know the guy's name, but there's a guy who worked with Saw to get that explosive liquid in the
Willman.
So at the beginning of this episode, he shows up and he's friends with Cassian and Biggs, right?
Well, he's been friends for like the whole show. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize till then, but I realized it was such a missed opportunity. If after he took his mask off with Saw and then he had to breathe in the fumes, that then he became the tubes guy.
What?
Right? So he burned his
we already
lungs
saw
and,
tubes.
You said there was two of them though. There's two different guys with
yeah,
tubes.
but those are they're aliens because they're like Plo Koon, like they need.
But still, wouldn't that have been a good twist?
Yeah, that would have been kind of crazy. Yeah,
I feel like
you know what?
Could have got an origin.
That's kind of funny. I thought this guy's also named after Bo Willimon, one of the writers. I thought that was the reference. But every time I hear Willimon, I think of Bo Willimon. So I don't know.
Maybe some to it.
All right, let's hit episode 2 here. So this episode is called "Who Are You?" And we'll read a bit of a plot summary here. Kaido orchestrates a demonstration by the Ghorman populace in the town square, subsequently initiating a deceptive incident to fabricate a pretext for the massacre of the demonstrators. This act serves as a justification for the obliteration of Ghorman. Profoundly disturbed, Cyril comprehends his contribution to this sequence of events and compels Dedra to reveal the full truth. Amidst the disorder, Cassian plans to assassinate Dedra. However, Cyril encounters Cassian and the endeavors to terminate him. Cyril is unnerved by Cassian's lack of recognition, facilitating the Ghorman resistance leader in eliminating Cyril. The resistance successfully disables a KX security droid using an armored transport. Cassian retrieves the droid while Willman remains behind to locate and assist his Ghorman partner, Drina. So, something that you mentioned, Matt, to kick things off, rebellions are built on hope. This is something that the bellhop says to Cassian just as they part ways. Cassian, who later in Rogue One says it to Jin, who then Jin says it later to the Rebel Council at the very end of the movie. So, it's kind of neat to see that connective tissue there, how there's, something else on top of all the other many things that connect Andor to Rogue One as its kind of third part to that story, because Andor comes in 2 seasons and Rogue One is kind of that third element that makes it sort of this weird trilogy somehow. It's kind of cool to see that connective tissue there. Who enjoyed watching this massacre? Because I thought it was it was very exciting. It was a terrible thing. It was a terrible thing to say, but
grotesque.
Who enjoyed watching this? Who was entertained by what went
civilians
down?
Getting mowed down?
Yeah. I mean, it was so sick though, right? It was man, this is good stories. This is good Star Wars story right here. This is the kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is what makes Andor different, and I loved watching it, even though it was such a terrible thing. I was like, man, this is what makes this show so great, right? So who enjoyed it?
It was a very good episode.
Well, I like the Cyril fight. I like Cyril and Cassian fighting. That was crazy.
Oh, that was cool.
It
Yeah.
seems like such a coincidence too that he just spotted him through this massive crowd of people.
Man, Cyril
And
dying.
they just forgot everything and just went saw red, went straight for Cassian.
Dude,
nothing else mattered anymore.
Cyril dying was like
So unexpected.
it was but it was like so good, right?
All that lead up, I thought he was gonna see the light and join the rebels.
You know, okay, so on the one hand, I kind of thought that, but on the other hand, this actually works so well, you know, because like even in those last moments, you know, everything that Cyril has like led up to this moment, he's finally caught the guy who he's been obsessing about for like years, right?
Yeah,
and then in this underwhelming realization that none of it friggin' matters.
Yeah.
He's lowering his gun and he just gets bam, shot in the head. And it's like,
so unfortunate.
wow, what a very like just such a, you know, like that's
way to go.
If anyone met their end like that, it would be Cyril. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he's the one guy that would totally make sense.
Unlucky cannon fodder.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also just
Yeah.
the fact that
Cassian's
his whole life was like built around, and like his whole previous life and everything before he joined the Empire was destroyed over this, and he just never let it go, trying to hunt down this one guy. He finally gets him, and the response is, "Who are you?"
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Like he's like about to get shot. He's like, who are you?
It reminds me of that Thanos moment where Thanos is like, I don't even know you. He says it to Wanda in Endgame, and then they have that fight. Reminded me of that.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. And then because Wanda's been obsessing over Thanos, you know, because he took everything from her, right? Like he, you know, scarred her for life, which is what led to the events in WandaVision and everything after. But you know,
But that's what happened with Andor. Like Andor unknowingly like destroyed Cyril's life. Like he had a good, you know, career up on that within the corporate authority. And then Andor comes in and never meets him, obviously, but just absolutely destroys his life. He gets fired, sent back to Coruscant, has to eat a bunch of cereal for ages, and then, you know, and then literally that entire arc, and then he finally meets him, and he realizes that after they have that scuffle, after that rage, that Andor doesn't even know him. It's just like, yeah, my whole life was complete. And he's like a data miner. What is he? Like, what was his main role? Like, just complete numbered employee, and he goes out like a numbered employee as well. Like, just someone.
Just a red shirt.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, especially the way.
I was shocked.
Oh, go for it, Matt.
And he was choking Deidre, and when he was choking Deidre, that was crazy.
Man, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, that was kind of nuts.
I wasn't expecting an ISB agent to just put up with that.
He just lost it. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
She didn't even really look that afraid of him during that thing. Like, I think she was prepared for that to happen. In fact,
I you know, okay, this might sound a little messed up, but like it almost seemed like she kind of respected him for it.
Yeah,
probably.
You know what I mean? Like there was like some weird thing that happened afterwards, which is like it's almost like you kind of liked it or something.
Well,
like,
it could be that you know
weird.
Maybe they practiced it before and they turned off the lights.
Oh my goodness. I don't want to think about that. No.
I think that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah. Anyway, Ghorman Massacre.
On other news.
Yeah, in other news.
Actually, going to the Ghorman Massacre, like I might go on a bit of a tangent here, but like what I was saying before about the guards, I think this is like the perfect representation of how good the writing in this show is. So the commander inside of the propaganda base, or where Cyril works, sends out those troops that are the most inexperienced troops. They subsequently get shot at. And knowingly, like they set up the fact that these guys are inexperienced. They know that when someone shoots this squad that goes out into the middle of the town, that they're going to react poorly and just immediately think it's the rebels and just start firing. And then that's how like it all like transpires and everything. And I think that was just like a obviously terrible moment. It's not good to watch, but it's. You know what I mean? But it was just such greatly planned and greatly set up. And I think that was a wonderful way that they really just like physically showcased how the writing is just like really propelled the propaganda machine that was the Empire in setting up this whole massacre.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the Gore actually think that they're protected leading into this because they even chant the universe is watching. And it's like, have you not been watching the feeds or the reporters? Because they've been like lying about what's going on there. They've been heavily propagandizing that the Gore are doing all these things, breaking curfew and whatnot, and talking about mass riots and stuff. Like, all of the propaganda says the Gore are the aggressors, and they think that they're going to be saved by all this news.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, and you know, I think the way that this whole thing unfolded, you just know what's about to happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's what
they start putting all the barriers up and everything.
Yeah, and I feel like it was just such a well constructed episode, because the entire episode, you know, it felt faster paced than it probably played out in the runtime. Like, it didn't feel like I was watching it for 40 minutes, you know, because it was just like,
I was sweating.
Yeah,
I was sweating watching it.
Totally, and that's exactly it, right? Like,
to be fair, you're in Australia.
Yeah, it is quite hot here, so maybe it was that.
When we started closing the gates and bringing in the stormtroopers, and like, that was crazy.
Yeah. Now I'm just picturing like Kirk on the couch, like sweating
in his boxers,
you know,
just
whiteies. Like, oh man, he's like watching Andor, right? And then, like, you know, somebody walks in the room and just like it's like 40 degrees in here. Can we get a fan or something? You know, it's like, it's not Andor.
Dude, we're about to hit winter, and like, it's 26 degrees here at the moment. It makes no sense.
That's pretty cozy.
And it's very warm.
Okay, to all our American friends listening, we're talking Celsius, not Fahrenheit. So, you know, if you're confused, the wind up for K2-SO's reprogramming was in this episode at the very tail end there, and this indeed, as we kind of speculated, which the show might do, broke canon with a pre-established story in a Marvel one-shot comic, which came out around the same time of Rogue One, probably like 9 years ago. And it was called Cassian and K2-SO, a Rogue One story, or something like that. And it was like a one-shot Marvel
very
comic.
Original title.
Yeah, and this was one of the few comics over the years, one of the few one-shots that I actually bought. So I have this in a physical form. And
don't worry, it'll be out soon with Legends banner.
I know, right?
For all the fans.
I know. So, okay. So here's the thing. Here's my dilemma with all of this, because we've debated this in the past with like when this happens, you know, and it's like, okay, was that really necessary? And that usually ends up being a situation which is like debatably kind of meh, you know what I mean? But this was one of those few times I was like, you know what? This was way better than the Marvel one-shot. The Marvel one-shot kind of sucked. Like,
could you relay that story, because I don't remember it at all.
Okay, so in the Marvel one-shot, in short, Andor goes on a mission, and there's these other characters in the story that have literally, they don't even show up in the show at all, right? And they end up finding, I think K2-SO is like, they have an encounter with him, and they end up I think it's a similar situation where they end up you know, putting him in a state of you know, being off, I guess, incapacitated, yeah. And then they eventually do reprogram. So it's like the beats of the story were the same. Planet was different. Mission had nothing to do with Ghorman.
He wasn't hit by a semi.
He wasn't hit by a car. Yeah, like a semi. Yeah, like
a truck.
All of these story beats were very different. Even though the main idea was kind of there, it was still very different, right? And I think in general, when I read the comic for the first time, I was like kind of underwhelmed, but only just, I don't know, there wasn't anything overly special about it. And this episode,
wait, so does this comic like cover how they met?
It covers how they met and how, I mean, he was an Imperial droid that's now reprogrammed, right? So the comic literally covered the story that the end of this episode was trying to tell, of like how they
reprogrammed him.
How they demolished him, and in the next episode they reprogram him, but it was like the wind up for that story, right? So the comic book told a very, very different set of events that leads to the same result. And I don't know, like I'm usually like not a fan of the whole breaking canon to make new canon, because that comic was canon,
common,
right? But it's becoming more common, and I think that's the part that sucks.
We're slowly like inching back to the G canon level.
Yeah. I think the part that sucks is that Disney kind of took great strides to work around all of these legend stories to make new stories, and now we're getting new stories in what they're calling canon without a Legends banner or anything like that, because that's what the Legends banner was made for. And then they write new stories on top of those stories and overwrite those stories canon. And it's like, well, where do these stories now fit in the canon? Because now you got characters like K2-SO and Andor who never existed in the Legends EU, and you got a canon story in a Marvel comic. Now you got a canon story in the TV show that tells the same story but completely different. So like, what do you do then, right? And so I think
what you do, Josh, is every few years you just retell the same story a little differently and make some more money.
See, my issue is now it's turning into Terminator. Because there's like 4 ways to watch Terminator.
Ironically, K2 is basically a Terminator droid.
Yeah, I know. But it's crazy. Like before, I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but before it was easy, saying like, okay, there's 2 continuities. You have the Legends continuity and the canon continuity, which is otherwise known as the Disney version, right? And it was easy to explain that to people. But now we're starting to get into this territory where there's other elements which are like, okay, well, this kind of sits between those 2 continuities because it was part of one and then got overwritten by something else, and now it kind of fits in this no man's land, right?
I think it is no longer no man's land. I think it gets booted down to the Legend side.
Dude, I think we gotta forget it ever happened. Now it's just like, no, it's garbage. It's like what do you do with that story?
I wasn't aware it existed, so now I am aware of it. So
yeah, okay. To be fair, this comic came out in 2016. Like this was a while ago.
They're doing that.
Yeah,
because you could argue the same thing for the Ahsoka backstory too, for in between episodes 3 and episode 4, right? When she's on that farming planet and she runs into the
right, the novel compared to the animated short.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so since that animated short's come out, the visual dictionaries have confirmed that those were 2 separate events.
Okay, so they're both technically canon. Wasn't there a bunch of weirdness that doesn't quite line up? But
no, there was some weirdness because Bale shows up in both situations. But they're supposed to be 2 separate events with 2 separate Inquisitors.
Right.
So that's the part that's weird, but that's just kind of a close call, right? Whereas this one, it's like blatantly obvious that we're trying to like overwrite a different story now. And this was like an event. Like when the movie was coming out, there weren't very many things that were coming out before Rogue One that was like a lead up into the film, right? Like, but at the time they were doing things like before The Force Awakens, right? They released like a whole wave of books which took place before The Force Awakens that people could read, and it had a special banner on it called Before the Awakening or something like that. And it was like, there was 3 junior novels. There was like
Chuck Wendig.
There was the Chuck Wendig Aftermath novel. There was like a few other things. There was the Shattered Empire comic book mini series, which was 4 issues long. There was a few things that all was like, hey, let's promote the movie with this thing, right? So this comic was one of those things for Rogue One, although being a spin-off movie, there was just less of it, but it was one of those many things, right? And so my issue is like, okay, where does it end? Because even though I'm not totally distraught over the canonicity of a one-shot comic, I'm also like, where does that leave us when they make more stories in the future?
That set a precedent, man. This is what it is.
It's just now. I don't know. I'm a little worried because I'm like, hey, where does that leave Marvel?
Going back to George's standard, which was anything that's on screen is main canon, and anything that's written in comics or books is secondary canon.
Yeah. Well, and I guess on screen you also mean animated show, right?
Yeah. Okay. Anything that's Lucasfilm official.
All right. Screen. So that leads me into another thing, which we'll talk about in the next episode here. But keep that in mind. Put a pin in that. Does anyone have anything else to bring up about this episode, or should we hit episode 3 now?
We didn't talk about how through the whole like everything that happened, we see kind of humanity of Deidre coming out. Like she's kind of like having a hard time handling this.
Oh yeah, she was really struggling with trying to swallow what she had to do, right? Like,
yeah, she was having a hard time, and then her superior kept calling her out.
Is that due to her reaction with Cyril?
Because before that, I thought.
Yeah. You're not
No,
talking.
it is after.
Yeah.
But
Was it?
I think
Okay.
it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
And did you guys notice what actually starts the riot?
Yeah, it was. What was it again?
Sniper.
It was the Imperial sniper, which took out the guy on the statue waving the flag.
No, before that, he took out their own guy.
Wait, what started the riot? Not the slaughter.
He actually shoots his own soldier.
Yeah.
He shoots his own soldier to start.
Yeah,
that,
he shoots. It's a false flag.
right. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Wait, he
that's what I
shoots
was saying. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying before. Like how like the Empire set up shooting an inexperienced soldier squad, and then that triggered them to think it was the resistance that shot out.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and then they shoot the guy with the flag. Yeah.
Yeah, afterwards.
Right.
Which was planned, which was like completely planned, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not awesome, but I have to keep saying that, but you know what I mean.
Also,
Yeah.
I thought it was weird that they didn't use red blaster bolts for the E11s. They were like these yellow with a slight orange outline.
So I think that was just how the lighting was set up to be. It like we don't always see E11s being shot and fired in a very kind of bright overcast sky. So I think maybe they were adjusting those colors to work with the environment.
Were you not on?
But
Well, I think Hoth was when they had the battle, but also on Endor.
yeah, but
that's what I was about to say.
Endor was darker. Endor was in a forest, and then Hoth, I guess, is the only exception, except other than when they're in the cave shooting at the Falcon. But I don't know. It must be a color thing, is my guess. That's the reason why Luke's lightsaber turned to green, right? Like that's why they made it green, because they were like, oh well,
We couldn't see it against.
couldn't
the blue
see it
sky.
against the sky, right? So I think maybe in efforts to not make it look so harsh in the camera, all these like red flashes everywhere, they may have dampened down the color a bit just to kind of work with the environment, because it was a very bright environment.
A lot of blaster bolts.
Yeah.
This,
It's a weird call.
this,
Or maybe this is what they look like in 4K.
Maybe that's what cheap blaster bolt power packs look like.
Low
Just like kind of
energy.
orangey. Yeah.
the one thing that
Go.
There were different variants on the E11 as well. Like there was some really super long barreled ones and a couple other minor differences on a few of them.
That's kind of
Yeah,
cool. Like
yeah.
how soldiers modify their own weaponry.
Yeah, that was neat. Yeah.
Oh, one thing that I don't know how I feel about when the resistance soldiers were all getting ready in their basement hideout, they're all putting in like the power packs and stuff inside their blasters, and then they would like cock it. I'm like, why do blasters need like a cocking mechanism?
I don't know. Like, is that just? I think. Well, in Star Wars, I believe they call it prime.
Sure.
Like priming the blaster. I think that's what it's referred to as when they do that. But I did love all of the whirring up sounds that it made.
It was a cool scene.
It was like, man, like this, and they all sounded kind of different, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, and we've heard it just a few times, not very many times, but you've heard that sound before in some other stories or whatever. And
Can you?
just cool.
Which sound are you referring to? Can you make it for us?
the priming sound
Okay.
effect? Yeah.
Of the
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Make me sound like an idiot. All right. All right. Anything else? We should probably move on to the next one.
Well, can I mention one last thing?
Yeah, go for it.
I think for me, like this is, we're obviously making a bit more of lighthearted nature for this episode because it was pretty, everything goes pretty dull.
Yeah.
But like going back to the darker side of it, I don't know why, but when that shot just panned back to Cyril's mother, like watching the massacre back at home,
Oh yeah.
like that scene, like it just like slightly made me tear up a little bit. I was just like, this is the first time I've actually felt like I reacted that way to a Star Wars episode of any kind recently.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was just me like, thinking of that shot, reminding of family and things like that. But I just felt really bad for her because, she sent her son, like got her son like a new job when he came back to Coruscant, helped him out. And then this woman that, controlled her in that lunch or that dinner meeting that they had the other day, saying, Cyril does what I want. You get visitation rights here, and here, and he's going to go to Ghorman, and whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And then because of all of that, and then her sons end up, dying on the front.
Yeah. Like
And it was that.
you start to
Which I
realize
thought was just
like,
tragic.
she's got a heart
It's just
after all,
awful.
right? Like, yeah, I think like is that the
She-
part that you that kind of connected with you a bit? Like she, thinking like, oh man, she actually
Well-
does care about her son.
Yeah, well, I mean, like through all the annoying stuff that she did to him, like she in the end, like she just wanted, like a lot of, I guess, mothers do, like they want their best for their kids, but she just did it in like a very over controlling way, and Cyril felt he could never impress her or never make her feel happy or make her proud, and whatever he did was like a failure, I guess. But he still kind of came crawling back to her, and despite all that, like she thought him going to Ghorman was like useless, like so it was like a downstep in his career, and I guess she was right in some way, but wrong in others. But in the end, I think the long story short, when it just cut back, just like she's only in this episode like for one shot, and like that's it, and then like it just cuts back to her, and then she's like, I assume she doesn't even know the news yet of Cyril passing away. I think she's just seen the news broadcast, but I'd be interested to see if they go back to her in the next episode. But I think that's it for that character.
I think you're right. I think that's it, because the next one is a year later, right? So I don't think they have plans to go back. Yeah,
I don't know. We'll definitely see more of Deirdre. I think. Whether or not we'll see more of her, maybe she'll visit the mother, like just to report the news, and that's it. But like, I thought that scene, for me at least, like perfectly kind of like wrapped up the awfulness. Even though Cyril was like one person that orchestrated a lot of it or helped orchestrate it.
So
but
true.
that's just the only other thing I'll mention.
It was shot super well.
It was emotional.
I didn't even think she said anything, but just like that, you could feel that connection of like if you had a loved one that you just saw all of a sudden on television where they're at, is now wonder like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you'd be worried sick, right?
Terrorist attack or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great way to end off on this one. So I'll read the summary for the next one, and then because we got to slam it out in a few minutes here. All right, this last one's called "Welcome to the Rebellion." Following the Ghorman Massacre, the Empire the Empire disseminated propaganda characterizing the event as an insurrection. Subsequently, Mon Mothma determined to publicly denounce the Emperor and subsequently relocate to Yavin 4. Bail Organa elected to remain and facilitate her extraction. Luthen Rail, having received intelligence from Jung indicating that Organa's operatives were compromised, assigned Andor to assist her escape. In action that spiked up discord with Mothma regarding the extent of Rail's infiltration of the rebellion and his directive to eliminate Kolma. With Organa's assistance, Mothma delivered a formal address to the Senate, therein condemning Palpatine and the Empire's manipulation of information. Andor successfully extracted Mothma from the Senate following the elimination of her chauffeur and a corrupt member of Organa's personnel. Mothma remained to publicly align herself with the Yavin rebels while Andor escorted Drina and an injured Willman back to Yavin. Profoundly unsettled, Andor resolved to depart from the rebellion and initiate a new existence with Bix Kalin. However, Kalin departed without notice, informing Andor that his continued involvement with the rebellion was imperative for its success, and that she would reconnect with him following the rebellion's triumph. Rebel technicians successfully reprogrammed the KX droid for their operational utilization, and we see the birth of K2-SO. Kirk, I want to start with you because I know you only have a few minutes left. So what did you think of that episode? And then maybe you can give us your Pablo points of Poodoos for the arc, and then we can exit you out.
Very quickly, I loved this episode. I thought the Ghorman arc was going to finish on a third episode, so I'm glad like how much they packed into this 3-episode arc. I thought Mon Mothma's speech was absolutely incredible and eerily quite, relevant for today's world as well, which I think they intended to kind of write in. The escape was unbelievably satisfying. I remember like audibly yelling out something when Andor, got rid of the driver as he was exiting the Senate building, and they finally made the escape. I was, very happy to see that play out. I can't think of too much in-depth stuff off the top of my head, just because there's so much that happened in this episode. I thought it was brilliant. From, I guess one thing I am kind of curious about is like what Bail Organa's reaction is going to be to the fact that one of his men, or a woman in this case, was an ISB officer, and what implications that might have on him. I love this episode. I think it was also really good to see Bail and Mon Mothma working together, like politically in the Senate to arrange that final speech. And lastly, I think just watching the ISB like control headquarters trying to shut down the feed was also really cool. So I was honestly expecting Palpatine to rock up in this episode, like to try and shut down the Senate hearing. But I understand that we don't really do massive cameos and stuff in this show. So although I still think it could have been, necessary. But anyway, great episode. I absolutely loved it. It was a good finish to the arc, and the best arc for me, at least, over the last 3.
Well said. All right. What is your Pablo points of Poodoos? And just before you do that, I'll explain the rating system to our viewers. 3 Pablo Poodoos is the worst. 2 Pablo Poodoos is bad. 1 Pablo Poodoo is not great. A Bendu is a 50% score, and we have Pablo points, which are good. So 1 Pablo point is good, 2 Pablo points is great, and 3 Pablo points is the best of the best of the best. So just as a context for what other people are thinking out there, IGN gave this story arc a 10 out of 10.
Don't taint it.
So I'm just throwing it out there, but I mean, hey,
making it biased.
Keep it true. I mean, like for us, like IGN never gives out 10s almost ever, but sometimes they're really weird with how they give good and bad scores. We almost never give 3 Pablo points. Like it's very rare when it happens. It's got to have some weight to it. So I'm just curious, like what did you think like this arc deserves?
I won't comment on the IGN stuff. I think their stuff is all over the place, so we won't go there. For me, like the first episode, I would probably give a 2, and the second and third episodes, so being 8 and 9, I would give both of those a 3. Pablo points on my end.
Since we're doing this as like an arc, like what would you average it
as
out
an arc? As an arc, I would average it out as a 3. It would, definitely for me. Despite the first arc being like a 2.5, I would say this whole arc is a 3 for me.
Okay, great, awesome. Kirk, thanks so much for joining us this week again, as always, and hopefully we can catch you for that finale, eh?
Beautiful. Thanks, guys. Sorry if I spoke too much. I thought this episode was great. It's always good to be on.
Amazing. All right.
It's good, man.
Good having you. See you, buddy.
Catch you on the next one.
Thanks all.
All right.
So we're gonna wrap up the episode now, right? That's it.
Yeah, that show's over.
That's opinion matters.
No, we can take our time on this one now. But okay, Darian, what did you think about this episode? What did you like about this one?
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really like that episode very much. It was like it's stuff we needed, but there was so much extra filler in there that didn't need to happen. So
can you elaborate? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering like what situations in this episode you didn't like.
Well, like the ISB officers having penetrated Bail Organa's crew and everything, it's like, okay, it shows that the ISB are kind of more competent than we've previously seen, but that the rebels can't really truly trust everybody they're indoctrinating into their army. But introducing, not indoctrinating. So there was stuff like that. I found this, for the most part, really slow.
Okay. This episode.
There's a lot of build up to the end, for sure.
Interesting. Matt, where do you sit on this one?
1 Pablo point.
Oh, your Pablo point. Sorry,
episode 3.
You say like for this episode arc, you give it 1, or for this episode you give it 1?
Yeah, for this arc, I'm going to say 1. I just didn't really enjoy it. I didn't go back and watch much in this to prep for this episode. It was more superficial in these. There was a lot of stuff we needed to see, but I think these 3 episodes could have been 1 episode and got the story across better.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. I always enjoy getting surprised by these reviews.
Opinions,
yeah, these opinions. Matt, what did you think of this episode, and what's your Pablo points of Poodoos?
How do I follow that? I don't know how to follow that. Okay, I love the speech, and I thought this had great memorable moments and quotes, right? Like are you alone? Friends everywhere. Welcome to the rebellion, and let's tear the poodoo out of this place. I love that.
Yeah.
And even K2-SO, like when he's like, I hope I didn't offend you. I'd appreciate if you point that elsewhere. Like I give it a 3, like 3 Pablos for me. Like I loved it. I had fun with it. I liked how it was tying everything into Rogue One, because that's really what the whole point of these stories and building up to. And it kind of made me want it. Like I'm ready to watch Rogue One.
Yeah,
And so I can't wait for them and just go right into Rogue One and go right into New Hope.
I think that's how I'm gonna do it too. I think I'm gonna watch the final 3 and then watch Rogue One right after. I think that's what I'm gonna do.
It'd be very clever on Disney's part to re-release Rogue One in theaters right after the arc's done.
Yeah, it totally would.
They make a lot of money.
They would, yeah, and I think they totally would do it if it were not up for its 10th anniversary next year. Because
do it again. Just make that one 3D.
Yeah, I know. I think it costs a lot. I think it costs money to bring movies back into the theater. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. But yeah, that's a good idea though. They should have thought about that. I like that. What you said, Matt. The Welcome to the Rebellion bit stood out to me too. Because this whole time you keep thinking to yourself like, wow, like Mon Mothma's been kind of funding the rebellion and kind of working with Luthen and all this stuff. Her own sister is a rebel and, doing her thing. So you don't really think much of it until the line, right? Because as they're escaping the Senate and Andor is just like, welcome to the rebellion, right? He's kind of just like, this is how it is, this is the welcome to your new life.
It's going to be like this every day.
It's going to be like this until we win.
From an ivory tower to be sleeping in the woods.
Yeah.
For the next several years.
I was like, man, like it kind of took me by surprise. Yeah, I guess she wouldn't know what that's like, right? Like she's been living in a bottle of stress and anxiety for the last
coated in a life
18
of luxury.
years, right? Coated in a life of luxury, but really it's just kind of hell. And, it's just, there's nothing good about everything that she's been living so far. And now she's got to be on the run. And now she's going to be in this other front of that war, which is really just about to break open and crack open. And it adds so much more pressure to where she is in Rogue One as a character. Mm-hmm. It really puts it in perspective. And I liked that a lot. So, yeah, what's also really neat is this whole moment kind of crosses over with Rebels.
That's what I want us to get into.
Yeah, so we'll dig into that, and then maybe you and I can give our Pablo points as well after that. But sure. So I'll kick things off by saying this. 2 big things that this episode crosses over with. Rebels Season 3, Episode 18. It's called Secret Cargo. So if anyone wants to silently bring that up in the background as we're kind of talking about this here. It also crossed over with what we were saying in the last, reviewing the last episode here, which was the Cassian and K2-SO Marvel one-shot, which does finish that story of the reprogramming of the droid, which was also still very different than how it unfolded in the comic book, albeit he is still a reprogrammed Imperial droid. That was always, clear in the story from Rogue One, but it was just told very differently in this show. So I feel like we've talked enough about that, though. That's my whole spiel on the comic. We should really get into the Rebels part of this. They also did an article, EW, that is, wrote an article about the deviation from the canon from the Rebels episode. So, not only was there deviations from the Marvel one-shot comic, but there were some minor deviations from the Rebels show as well. And first and foremost, though, the main points is in the Rebels episode, it kicks off with the crew of the Ghost talking about how Bail is having them wait for Mon Mothma, essentially, in space somewhere. They're going to be linking up and collecting her so that they can kind of escape with her on board their ship.
Do they take her to Yavin?
Eventually they do. You don't actually see Yavin in the episode, but they meet a whole bunch of rebel ships in space, and she ends off the episode kind of performing this. I think she performs some sort of speech to the galaxy above.
They air it out.
Yeah, exactly. So that happens. And that part they actually kept the same. I feel like
they tried to connect it because they also talk about how at the end of the episode, how Cassian's not going to get any of the glory for it. Instead, there's another fleet to bring her in as like a role.
Yeah, they want to do it with the fleet, and they wanted to basically make a show of it, like a propaganda style show of it, right?
Which I feel like is also them trying to tie it into the Rebels crew.
Yes,
pick her up.
100%. That's totally what it was for. Yeah. So I'll just kind of blast through this sort of bit here, and it's going to give us a little bit more insight into this whole thing. So the monster who will come for us all soon enough is Emperor Palpatine. So those words Mon Mothma gives up in the Senate in the speech. Episode 9 of Andor Season 2 delivers a highly anticipated moment to the screen, one that both audiences and O'Reilly, who has been portraying Mon Mothma for 20 years now, have been waiting for. After the Ghorman Massacre, Mon feels she can no longer stay silent about the atrocities of the Empire. She decides, along with Bail Organa, the Benjamin Bratt version, that it's time to publicly decree the Empire and their actions on the floor of the Senate. They make a plan in which Bail will yield to the floor to her, and his team will extract her immediately after. Mon prepares her speech, even shutting out her assistant, when she discovers that he's been reporting her every move to Luthen for the last 2 years. She's not risking anything, O'Reilly explains, of Mon's refusal to hear Erskine's apologies and excuses. She knows that now is the time to use her one weapon, which is her voice, and she must use it and be as impactful as possible. She is ruthless in that moment in the name of the rebellion. Then she delivers a historic speech, which is the whole thing that we hear. And the article goes on to say that for O'Reilly, it was the realization of 2 decades of work portraying this character. It was everything I was hoping for, she says. That's like the best gift you can get as an actor. She speaks of how important the Senate is to her. You can see that it's like her church. She reveals so much, and then she calls out some really brutal truths. And she adds that that was everything I really wanted to do. I knew that would be important to fans. I knew it would really be important to me. For her, that's the fulcrum of who Mon Mothma is right here, or right there. And so I got to stand up for her in that moment. That was really important to me, and I hope that means something to people, because it really felt great to be able to give her that voice. However, Star Wars fans may note that this speech diverges somewhat from the canon that was established in the animated series Star Wars Rebels. In Season 3, Episode 18, Secret Cargo, Mon makes a speech broadcast across the galaxy from within a ship as she's transported to Yavin by Gold Squadron. Andor creator Tony Gilroy explains that he and writer Dan Gilroy felt constrained by having to adhere to the speech she delivers there, and weren't all that interested in parroting someone else's writing. We are hijacking canon, Tony Gilroy admits. In canon, she's rescued by the Gold Squadron, and the speech that they gave in the cartoon, which was a canonical show, is on that ship. And Danny's like, do I have to stick to this Evan speech? As it turns out, they figured out a way where she didn't have to, allowing them to eat their rebel cake and have it too. Cassian would rescue Mon from the Senate, evading Bail's corrupted squadron, and he would deliver her to the safe house, but she would remain there awaiting Luthen's arranged transport with Gold Squadron, and she would make a yet another broadcast to the entire galaxy once safely on her way to Yavin. In a really sneaky way, we're minimizing what they did in Star Wars Rebels, but we're keeping it consistent, Gilroy notes. We're just saying you don't really know the whole story of what happened. At first, the whole story was told a bit differently. Mon's speech was fragmented. Pieces of it were cut between a flurry of action scenes depicting Bail's corrupted Gold Squadron, Cassian's entry to the Senate, and the Empire's frantic attempts to shut Mon down. But O'Reilly wanted Mon to get the full meal of the moment here. And they kind of proceed to talk a little bit more about how they wrote the speech for that character in a really special way. And then that's pretty much it. But I think what stuck out to me was that the speech in the Rebels episode at the very, very beginning, she shows up as in a hologram, like as like kind of an example of like the speech that she gave, and it is different. There's like, so they did diverge in that way, but they kept it continuous in the way that the speech she does deliver from the crew of the Ghosts and the Gold Squadron was canonically like kind of planned out, you know, in the end of the Andor episode.
That's a pretty minor change. I think it's worth it if you get like more quality in the Andor show here, like a higher quality canonicity.
Right. But you know, here's the thing though. Like, I mean, like on the one hand, that's one way to look at it. But on the other hand, when you look at a show like Ahsoka, and I know it's a Dave Filoni thing, you know, Rebels is his baby, and Ahsoka is kind of the continuation of that. But they went to such efforts to recreate a lot of the same things, right? Like the scene where Sabine is looking at the painting of of Ezra
Right.
and family, and like they literally did it one for one, minus the costume that
But
Ahsoka's
Dave
wearing,
made both
right?
of those things.
And Dave made both of those things. That's true. But it's just like, it kind of does put it into this perspective of like, okay, there isn't a singular global way to look at the canonicity of these animated shows, right? Like on the one hand, yes, it's Lucasfilm official screen time that, like you say, should be considered canon with the rest of any of the stuff that you watch, right? Which is above the stuff that you read. But on the other hand, it's like, well, now we're getting into this territory where, and this is similar to the Bad Batch animated show, kind of contradicting the Kanan comic
Yeah, I
books.
remember
But,
that too, yeah.
but like, there's some sort of weirdness there. But at the same time, it's like you're getting into this territory now where something you watch and something you watch, both shows that kind of should exist on the same plane of existence, have now slightly rubbed up against each other in a bad way.
Allow me to say one thing. The special editions.
Yeah, I mean, the special editions though, like those really are like overriding one of another, right? Like,
Well, I would argue this is probably the same thing now, because like I feel like the point of the speech is the same. It's just now,
but the special,
it's just worded differently.
But the special edition, you're talking about like special edition episode 4 versus regular episode 4. Yeah, okay, but that's the thing. It's like they don't exist on the same plane of existence because it's one version of a movie is newer than the older one, so the older one kind of goes the way of the dodo, right? Whereas,
right, but I mean, story point wise, did this actually change at all, or is it the same story points? It's just the wording of the speech is a little more different.
The speech, this just in general, the bits that we hear on the hologram at the beginning of the Rebels episode is just different than what we hear her say in the Andor episode.
Right.
So like, it's
I
not
feel like that's a smaller change than Han shooting first.
I think it's not like a huge difference, right? Like I feel like less people might notice, and also the speech that she delivers in Andor is way better, and it's it's
that's the main thing for me. If it was worse, then I'd be angry. But I feel like for me, it's like they had to redo some CG because the resolution didn't hold up.
Yeah, I guess so. But at the same time, Rebels and Andor are supposed to coexist. Whereas like redoing something in a movie to make it better or different is just a replacement, right?
Mhm.
And they're not supposed to kind of coexist next to each other. It's almost like, okay, the comparison would be maybe for me is if they did not use a puppet version for Yoda in the sequels. If they went to the CG version for episode 8, to me, that would not make sense because you ended off with Yoda being a puppet, and now you're going into a movie that takes place after. You should still be using the puppet.
That's like
right?
a prop thing.
It's
so
like
that's not a big deal for me.
But instead, though, if they replaced it with the CG Yoda that we see in the
Right.
prequels, which is supposed to be a lot younger and more animated, literally, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like that to me wouldn't make sense. Just as how like these two events that coexist on the same plane of canonicity, kind of they slightly rub up against each other. I don't have a huge problem with it. I guess my biggest problem is like, okay, you're approaching that territory again of like, now creating this fragmented lore, and like that's just not something that's like, it's sketchy, right? Sketchy.
Yes, you're right. You're totally right. 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant. Does anyone else have anything to say on this?
I agree. Well, at the end, I like when Mon Mothma asked him, they told him that they're going to rewrite, kind of rewrite the story. And then she goes, is there anything that we can do for you, right? Or anything I can do for you? I think she says. And he's like, make it worth it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very good response.
Yeah. Very good. Very good response. Yeah. Darian, anything to say on this one?
Not really. I probably won't watch this episode again.
All righty.
I feel like because we have all this background with like the Rebel show and stuff, I think we were more excited to see how it was revealed.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's part of it because
I love Rebels, but I felt like this was rehashing a lot of stuff that most Star Wars fans would know, but then failed to address things like Mon Mothma and Organa being at odds up to this point. Like they just seem like they're friends here. And up to this point, if you read any of the books or comics or any of that stuff, they grate on each other constantly. They don't agree on anything. And here she's just like, yeah, okay, I trust you.
Is that a ruse?
Okay, but the book that you're referring to that we're going to be chatting about takes place like 17 years before this show, before this episode.
I know, but there are other books and stuff where they don't really get along. And
I just wonder if that's a front because they're like the only two senators that have anything to do with the rebellion. So I feel like they would see eye to eye on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I wonder though if maybe like that exact thing might be addressed at some point, you know, with other stories, right? Like but you're right. Like there has been some indication that they don't always get along, but they have always had a very strong
feud.
Opposition to the Empire, right? And that's where they line up. And I think this is one of those moments where they're on sync, right? Like this is one of those moments where they're not at odds because they both know what each other has to do. You know, one of them has to leave because they have to address this situation. You know, this is supposed to be an atrocity that somebody has to say something. And Mon is taking a stance of like, hey, I'm going to be the one to say something. But they still need somebody on the...
Secondarily, they need someone to represent the rebellion in person.
And they also still... Yes, to
army
100% because they're going legit. And then, but they also need someone on the inside, right? They also need someone to stay in the Senate, in the Imperial Senate, and Bail is taking on that role.
I will say my only concern with that is because he was clearly involved in passing her the torch to do this speech. Like he's gonna have so many like sights set on him.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where that all leads to in episode 4, where you know Vader knows the truth about Bail and you know he's like, no, you're part.
It's
you're
just
part of
a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, no. He calls her out on that BS, right? Because he knows Bail. He knows his work in the Senate. No. He knows what he's up to, right? And not to mention he's seen the ship. But like at the same time, it's like.
Yeah, just the exact same ship from like an hour ago.
Yeah. At the same time, though, Bail's got a record, right? He's known, you know, in one of the books that we're currently reading right now, like Bail's one of the people that are being watched by the ISP, by the Empire, because they know already, like, okay, this guy's, you know, he's
sketchy at best.
He's not with us on this. He's not with the Empire on this, on like loyalty wise, right?
Jimmy Smits would have played it better.
Yeah, you know, like. I really missed Jimmy Smits in this show. Too. Like I got
me too. I was just imagining it was him. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what's his name? Benjamin does a great job. You know, great actor. He's not Bail though to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I had to keep reminding myself it was the same character.
Yeah, I did too, and it took me out of it. I mean, like, yeah.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
I guess the thing that really grates on me here is you get the resolution of Mon Mothma and Organa, where they find mutual respect and they take their places that they both need to be, but you don't actually get to see the conflict and grating between them to need that resolution.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, in a way, though, I guess. I mean, personally,
it's not necessary to the story.
Yeah, and personally, as like at least from what we've had in Star Wars stories in the past, I've grown used to a lot of that kind of stuff. You know, like a lot of people felt the same way when it's like Anakin turns to the dark side. It's like, where did that come from? But it's like, well, dude, there's been like 3 years of war going on, and there's been lots of other stories between there. And you know, we had Clone Wars come out and tell so many great stories of him just getting, you know, shadier and shadier with falling down that dark side rabbit hole, and then episode 3 made a whole lot more sense when you get that stuff. So on the one hand, like I totally agree, but on the other hand, it's like I'm expecting there will be more stories that come out that do deliver that connective tissue later. But I can see where you're coming from though. Yeah. So one last thing is K2, you know, being revived in the Yavin base. Once again, a bit different than the comic book. But I mean, it was great to hear Alan Tudyk's voice as the character again. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he had something very, very K2-SO to say, you know, like, you know, would you be able to get that gun out of my face or something, right? Like it was great. It was great to see him back. It brought a smile to my face. So that was cool.
What are your thoughts on him only being around for one arc, though? For such a fan favorite character.
Oh, I mean, I think he's gonna be in the next arc for sure.
Oh no, I for sure. Yeah. But like, we're only gonna get one arc of 4 with K2-SO. We could have had 3.
Yeah. I mean, but here, like, never say never, right? Like, at some point, maybe we will get K2-SO back in more stories between season 2 episodes 10 through 12 and Rogue One, right? Like, I don't know. But then again, they say that episode 12 is supposed to lead directly into Rogue One, so that gives me the indication that he doesn't live very long in that sense, right? So I don't know. Maybe we'll.
There's only 1 year's worth of stories, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe somebody is going to go to... No, actually, Scarif was obliterated. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, never mind. I was going to theorize something for a second. No, it's not going to work. Anyway, okay. Pablo Points of Poodoos, hit me.
I know it seems like this arc is pretty like extreme, high or low points compared to the last few. The first episode I feel like was kind of meh, but I really liked the next two. Yeah, sorry about that. But I feel like I'll give it 2.5.
I see. That's where I'm at too, because I have a gut feeling that the next arc is I'm gonna be giving that a 3-pointer. I think for the finale. Yeah. But
sorry, Darian. Maybe it's just television trash, but I enjoyed that last episode.
Yeah, I did too.
I really don't think it's trash. I guess I have too high of expectations. I really went into this set thinking I knew where it was going to go, and it just fell short.
Fair enough. Admittedly, even before where we had any idea what the show was going to be, even from season 1, I think you and I had talked about this, Josh. I was hoping they would show Mon Mothma having to escape. That was one of the things I was looking forward to. So that might have also increased my expectation or excitement for it.
Yeah, this finale episode sort of thing.
Yeah. Just for the whole how did Mon Mothma get off Coruscant?
Yes.
All that.
See, and that's something that I've been anticipating on seeing from this show, knowing that this was going to overlap with Rebels at some point with this character, right? And to me that always made sense to do, and so it was a story that I was looking forward to. I knew it would have some tension to it. So. And
to Darian's point, like we obviously know that happens, so it's not exactly unexpected. But I thought they pulled it off well. I enjoyed seeing the reveal of the nuance of it.
You know, and something else that stuck out to me before we wrap things up, something else that stuck to me is as they're leaving, Cassian kills, 2 people die, right?
Yeah.
Like
an ISB agent and the driver who's also working with ISB.
Exactly. And in both situations, she is just shocked, right?
Like she's never seen death.
Like she's never seen that happen before in her life. And not to mention, she's still traumatized all this time later over the death of her childhood friend, Tay, who was about to turn her in and stuff like that, right? So, you know, she is very different in that sense than what we're used to seeing from a senator, being Padme, who is a very seasoned friend of the Jedi. Right. She's very used to seeing action and squeezing off a blaster herself, right? Yeah. So like it really puts it in perspective because Padme is quite a special kind of badass character. You know what I mean? Like she's not every senator is like that, right? And so like when you see Mon be put in that similar situation of having to depart this place that she is, you know, let's not forget she was probably senator around the same time that she married her husband, which was like, you know, she was in her teens, right? So she said she basically has no memories of, you know, not being a senator at the Senate, you know, building, right? So for her, this is like traumatic. She's leaving her home, like she's leaving the life that she knew, and she is heading off into the great unknown of this sort of act of terrorism in a way. And you know, she's the most like polite person and proper, and you know, it's just like she's just put into this situation that I think she thought she would never be in, and she's got this like, you know,
I feel like she was coming around and realized, because there's definitely points. We saw this in the last arc, right? Where she couldn't convince anybody to take her side, which was the clear, morally correct decision across the other senators, but people just weren't willing to do it.
Because they were afraid.
Exactly.
Right. So
especially the Ghorman who should have been, like it was literally for his people and he wouldn't even get on that side.
Yeah, totally.
So
right? True. Yeah, so I feel like that's
we didn't even talk about how he got arrested before this happened so that he couldn't speak out about it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you know, it's to me there was a lot in this episode that I really loved, and it, you know, the tension was that of kind of like the massacre on Ghorman. It just kind of carried through to this episode, and to me, I just really liked it. But
and I also personally like the touch of the NASA style control room as they're all like looking after, like spying on all these senators.
Totally. Okay, so I got a funny story. Well, maybe Kirk will listen to this, but I got a funny story just before we close things up about how I watch these episodes. So my Disney Plus app, I share a password with some family, and so the app on my projector screen is like kind of bunk, where it doesn't always want to log me in. I have to go through the email, one-time code kind of thing to get in. And so I was like, waste of time. But the mobile apps, they retain your account information. So what I do is I Chromecast from my phone to the projector screen, and I guess it's the smart operating system on the projector is not the best. It's like a very cheap kind of processor that they put in these things. And so when I was watching the first episode, it ended, and then there was some issue that I ran into as the second one started up, and so I had to like restart it, and I dragged the slider back and whatever, and then it started out. Okay, good. I'm 3/4 of the way watching this episode, and I realized this is episode
3,
the third one.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh shoot! I was
you watched them in the wrong order.
So then I had to go back. So I paused it right away, and then I watched the second one.
Right.
And I watched all the way down. I was like, oh my gosh! Like I was so mad at myself. and then I watched the third one again from the beginning, and I was like, oh my goodness!
At least it gave you more context.
Yeah, it was like, okay,
the Ghorman Massacre.
The Ghorman Massacre.
Having off screen.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, man, like I wonder if they're just gonna flash back to like what happened or something.
Just everyone's dead.
So yeah, and then I started thinking about our slip ups last week, which I all edited out of the episode of the podcast. But me, I was all scrambled putting these episodes all together in my head, and then here I am watching them out of order, and I was like, what the heck?
Oh man, no wonder you had to take notes. You can do it again.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but I got on top of it, I did the whole thing over again, and anyway, it was just kind of one of those funny situations. But
welcome to Star Wars Escape Pod, the only ADHD Star Wars podcast out of the galaxy.
Exactly.
Make it worth it.
All right. Let's theorize real quick as the outro plays up. Maybe just in under 20 seconds, if you can each give your theories as to what we're going to see next week. Matt, we'll start with you.
What?
Put you on the spot.
I don't know. Passing, Darren.
Josh likes to eject us at Mach 4 and then expect us to have an answer.
Yeah, dude. Black hole. That's where it's at. Yeah. I'm gonna let you cook on it.
We can come back around.
We can come back. Yeah, we can come back around. Yeah. Blake, what any theories for next week?
Well, we're gonna have to see something with Luthen because he's not in Rogue One, so be curious to see what happens there. Man, I was really hoping for a big reveal because he comes in as such a big character in season 1.
Yeah,
and we just have no backstory to why he is doing this in the first place.
Yeah,
and I really want to know that. And if they don't show it in the next arc, I'm gonna be really.
I mean, maybe they'll make a Marvel one-shot that they'll just rewrite later.
Yeah. Star Wars.
It doesn't matter.
Tales of the.
It doesn't matter.
Tales of Rail. All right, Darian, what about you, man?
I'm wondering if the ISB plant that Luthen has is going to betray him. I don't necessarily think it's going to go that way, but I'm kind of hoping we got a cloak and dagger because they alluded in this episode that Luthen has burned all his bridges and he's no longer safe.
You mean Lonnie? You mean Lonnie, the guy that he kind of bullies around all over the place?
Yeah, the ginger guy.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. It's good. It's a good theory. Matt. What about you?
I'm hoping to see more like Reddick, like more. I want to see more Death Star stuff, like them building the Death Star and
the
K2-SO for sure.
Yeah,
and Saltwater, hopefully some more. And what happens with Deidre? I wonder if they're going to kill off Deidre. I was kind of hoping that Kelsey would take the shot.
Man, I was hoping for that too. There's so many close calls. It's never.
Dude, I think we're all going to be very happy because all of this is going to come true. I'm convinced. I'm convinced of it.
I gotta say, like, I was just waiting for that shot on her, and then just out of nowhere, I felt like Cyril died. So I was like, wow.
Yeah,
it's the wrong one.
This arc was all about doses of reality for every character.
Yeah. No, I think you guys are right though. I think you're right. Dedra's gonna die. We're gonna see Krennic again. Obviously, we're gonna get more of K2-SO. Lonnie, I think something's gonna happen there. We're at least gonna see him again, or Luthen Rail. Like maybe meeting his end.
Is Bix just
I feel
gone?
like I think Bix is going to come back. I think because this is going to be another year later, right? So I think we're going to see her return in some way, shape, or form.
I don't know. I feel like they've successfully written her out for Rogue One.
Yeah, I think she's out.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It makes me wonder where she's gone, though. So I don't know. I feel like
she said she'll find him after Rebellion is won.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what'll happen there.
Maybe see Leia.
Yeah, another CG Leia. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
And Grandma Carson.
Exactly. All right, guys. Matt, Darian, and Kirk, who is now gone. Thank you guys for popping in. And Blake, thank you as always.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we will catch you all in the next one.
We'll see you out there. Keep flying.
May the force be with you. All right. Thank you so much to our audience as well for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Star Wars Launchpad, which is our AI experimental podcast. I keep forgetting to plug that, but every few weeks we put out a new one. It's interesting to listen to. It is 90-something% AI conversation in there, and it's just fun to get your Star Wars headlines in a very automated process, and it's stuff that we just don't have time to bring up on EscapePod because only so many minutes in an hour. So that's something to check out. You can also follow us on the socials with the handle at SW Escape Podcast, and on Bluesky. We're on Bluesky as well. You can find us with the handle at StarWarsPodcast.ca because they do handles differently over there. So we kind of upgraded on Bluesky. Don't forget to check out the links down below for the True Star Wars Runtime Tracker, which is located in the podcast archives, and so much more in there. You can see our Pablo Points of Poodoos. We got one more Andor Aftershow in a week's time, and so much more to look forward to after that. May the Force be with you, and we'll see you in the next one.